Hey, badass business owners. My name is Tammy, and I'm here to help you grow your business, but more importantly, grow those profits. And as you know, if you've been listening to me or watching me, I'm all about knowing your business numbers because I believe that your business numbers are the key to unlocking your profits, and it gives you information on how to get better at it. One of the questions that I get asked all the time, and I thought I would cover it here on the podcast, is how did I get to know and understand a profit and loss myself? Well, you see, at my earliest jobs, you can say that I kind of got promoted at them and I had to start learning business numbers and how what we do impacts different numbers. While I didn't actually get to see the P&L at the time, I got it drilled in me pretty early on about the fact that what we do impacts the bottom line of the business. Then fast forward, I'm working for Home Depot and I'm doing all kinds of positions. I'm with them for 22 years and I went from the lowest of positions to the highest positions to regional to divisional, stuff like that. And I was exposed to a P&L on a lot of different levels. So in the beginning, when I was a department supervisor, they give us a version of a P&L, which is more on the side of the inventory, right? So I spent years really diving into inventory, turns, how often we're turning it, gross margins, where they need to be. Every department is different and what your department needs to be. And we got this report and we were held accountable to it. And because I like numbers and I like solving issues, I really wanted to understand this profit and loss version that we got. It wasn't the full-on version that we know of today, but I really wanted to know my numbers and be able to understand my departments. What started off as one department, and eventually I had multiple departments, but I really wanted to know those. So I really tried to become an expert when it came to inventory, gross margin, turns, stuff like that, right? Then as I got promoted to assistant manager, now I'm being able to see the stores profit and loss. And now I'm getting the whole concept of all the parts of a P&L, the money coming in, the income, the cost of goods, which is a lot of what we sell out on the floor, right? Because that's what the customers are purchasing. But I also got the hard reality of the business expenses, because when you're diving into those departments, you're just seeing the amount of money that you're bringing in and you're purchasing and the amount that you're selling, but you're really not getting the impact of how the operational expenses really impact how much money you get to keep. So it really was an eye-opening experience. And what I found with a lot of small business owners, you kind of have the same thing. You focus so much on the sales coming in and how much you're spending on those cost of goods that you're always shocked and surprised by your profits. And really where that difference comes in a lot of times is on those operational expenses. So as I moved up and I got to see full P&Ls and profit and loss statements, I really got to be held accountable to the money we were spending in the store and where was this going and why were we spending it on this and whatnot. And even at the store level, we would have some numbers that were more round up, out of our control, if you will, because they were corporate numbers that trickled down into our store. And those ones were probably the most frustrating to me because I had so little impact on those numbers. But it really made me want to make sure that I controlled what I could control. But at the same time, every month I was in a meeting and I had to justify my numbers. As I moved up into the district as a district manager, now I've got multiple stores that I am responsible for. And now I'm having to read not only the district P&L, but I have to become an expert in all of the individual stores that are underneath me. And once again, having to really dive in, understand why is this store different than this store? For some of you that have multiple locations, you can relate. Not all of your multiple locations are going to have the same numbers. So you really had to dive in. Just like the departments were always different, so were the different locations. And ultimately, as a district, the stores were different. And at the corporate level, every store was different. Every market was different, stuff like that. When I got into merchandising, same thing. It was more dialed into those particular things. So needless to say, in those 22 years, I got drilled into me a version of a P&L in all different ways just because I was always held accountable to my numbers. And that was one of the things I really thank my time at Home Depot, because they were so numbers like watch those numbers, understand them. And I love teaching other people how to read those. And I really wanted to make sure that anybody that wanted to learn could learn and didn't have to go through some of the pain that I went through when I was trying to learn. Fast forward towards the end of my career, I'd like, I kind of want to go do something different. I want to be a small business owner, right? After all those years, I was seeing tons of small business owners come and go. And I ended up for a long story short, I ended up with this ice cream shop. And what I ended up doing, it was like a bridge thing, right? I wasn't going to try to make tons of money off of it. That was never the purpose. I made some good money when I worked at Home Depot. And my goal was just to run the small ice cream shop and get to know the business and local business owners and stuff like that. Well, needless to say, I made that jump in 2008, which is the worst year that you could make that jump because, as you know, everything tanked and I went through hell for the next 5 years. But here's where the P&L comes in handy. What saved me was because of me understanding these profit and loss, right? Because when I purchased it, I really dove into the previous owner's profit and loss statements, and I was able to get a hold of his other locations. So I really understood the money going in and out of the business. Plus, I understood how much he was hiding in the business or what creative bookkeeping and creative accounting, if you will, because he had multiple businesses and he could spread it out across all the businesses. So I was able to kind of pick apart and know what would carry on with me and what wouldn't carry on with me. But during my time with Baskin, one of the other things that I got to experience was other franchises, right? Not all of them are created equal. Sometimes they would have similar sales, but completely different profit lines. And as we would go to these meetings and we would talk, it really became crystal clear to me how little most of these folks knew and understand their P&L. They were really good at instinctually knowing about their business. And some of them were really good at their numbers and some not so much. But they all had various self-taught ways of how they learned the P&L. So their level of detail and understanding was very varied based off of the backgrounds that they brought. But I also got to meet a lot of other small business owners who were going through in our local community, right? They were going through very similar times with our population that was decreasing in our particular town and businesses going out of business and whatnot. So I talked to a lot of business owners even outside of that. And one of the things that really stood clear to me was how easy it was for me when it came to a P&L because of my background and how hard and difficult it was for other people. Not to mention how many business owners I ran into that didn't even know what a P&L was and they didn't track their stuff at all. What was interesting was how similar they were. Here I am running these multi-million-dollar businesses and their P&L is laid out in exactly the same as a small business. It's just a different scale, if you will. Even those of you listening right now, some of you guys are maybe doing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year in sales, and some of you are doing multi-million dollars. But your P&L all looks the same. It all flows the same. It all has similar things on it. Some businesses that are smaller have less stuff on it and bigger businesses have more stuff, but it all falls into the same buckets, right? It's money coming in, it's cost of goods, it's operational expenses, and then your net income/profit. So it dawned on me that one of the things that I could do is to help give back was to help small business owners really learn and understand their P&L. Home Depot gave me a lot of hands-on training. Like I said, they were shoved in my hands. They also sent me to courses. I got to go to classes. I got to do training. I got to do all of this stuff. And I felt it was my purpose to turn around and do something similar to small business owners who did not have that same opportunity. They were learning on the fly. They were learning as they go. They were learning from the school of hard knocks. And in some cases, they were 4 or 5 years into their business and they weren't learning at all because they just didn't understand or they were afraid or whatever keeps us from doing our P&L. Some of you know what I'm talking about because you really don't have a P&L or even look at it, even if you do have one. But what came important to me was how can I help small business owners? And when I first started this podcast, it really started off with how to become a better business owner and things that people could learn from big box retailers on how to put it into their small business, whether it was customer service, whether it was the customer experience, whether it was inventory, whether it was whatever, you name it, people, numbers, whatever. It was a little bit of everything in the beginning, and that worked really well. But then I noticed something. Every time I talked about P&Ls and every time I talked about understanding your business numbers, I got more feedback from people because this obviously was a pain point that people were having, which is exactly what I suspected when I first started doing this. So I started doing more and more content about how the things we do every day in our business impact our business numbers. And if we really truly understood our business numbers, it would lead us to make these other changes that we need to do in our business. And then after that, I just continued to study. I wanted to learn even more. P&Ls can be all kinds of things. There's the most basic of ones that a lot of small business owners have, and they can be the most complicated ones. When you're looking at a corporate profit and loss, they have all kinds of lines on there that you would never have in most of your small business owners, most of your small businesses, right? You hear EBITDA and EBIT and all these other things. You don't have to worry about all of that stuff. But what I found was most of the training out there was about how to understand those corporate ones, right? Whether it was because somebody was going to buy stocks or they just thought that was the type of training. And nobody was really out there creating how-to information on profit and loss for the small business owner. Well, you don't need all of that other stuff and all that other garbage. So I made some videos in the beginning that just kind of because it's hard to do it on a podcast, to say, hey, this is what a P&L looks like. This is how you read it. And next thing I know, once again, people were relating to that. And I wanted to create even more on that, which is why eventually I put together the Know Your Business Numbers course, because I wanted to give a simple way for people to understand their business numbers, and to be able to read them and stuff like that. All of this to say that, yes, I ran an ice cream shop, but you know what? I've also had 5 other businesses since then. And right now, today, technically, I have 4 small businesses. And one of the things is that's common across all of them, doesn't matter what they are, is that same P&L. Right? It's the same stuff. Right now, I do bookkeeping for a lot of people. And guess what? They have businesses all over the map and they all do something different, but their P&Ls are all laid out the same and they all follow the same thing that all the big corporations do. I do a lot of coaching for some people. Guess what? Their P&Ls might have more information on them, but once again, they also follow the core principles of what a P&L does. Sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals profits. Some of you said that with me because you've been listening to me say that, whether you're looking at a P&L or not. That's how things go in our business. Sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals the profit that we get at the end of the day. Yes, our profit has 3 jobs that it needs to do. It needs to go to taxes, retained earnings, debt, and then some money for you as the owner that you get to draw out of it. And we will continue to talk about this stuff. But the main thing I wanted to do is to say, look, it doesn't matter what type of business you have. You can have a big corporate business. You can have a small business that does very little money. It's very important that you're following your business numbers. It starts with your P&L. And yes, for some of you, we need to have conversation about your inventory, your turns, and how much money you're spending and your gross margins and stuff like that. But for most of you, it really does start with the P&L. And sometimes I'll be talking to people and they'll be like, oh, I know you really kind of understand these bigger businesses. Yeah, I may understand those bigger businesses, but my heart is with people that are just trying to get started, or people that have been in business for a few years that want to grow, or businesses that don't want to grow, but they're like, hey, I want to be a one-man band or woman band, and I want to make the most money that I can. And can my P&L help me with that? Absolutely. So whether you want to stay solo or you want to go hire tons of people or you want to conquer the world, at the end of the day, the P&L is going to be the single best tool that you have in your tool belt to help you run a better business, to help you get those sales, but more importantly, to grow those profits, which is what we're always talking about. And like I said, I'm probably going to always have this passion to help people with that. And I've lucked out that I've been able to create a couple of businesses that allow me to do that more and more. But meanwhile, I get to keep doing some of my other stuff that I do. But when I look at the future, I really see the fact that there's going to be a day where all I do is concentrate on helping people with their books and understanding their P&L and all that. And that becomes the full-time thing because I want to take the knowledge that I've been blessed with and continue to help others. Will you outgrow what I'm teaching you? Probably. For some of you, absolutely. You're going to grow these massive things. Doesn't mean you've outgrown my knowledge. It just means that right now, I want to focus on the people that are really trying to get their arms around it. What's interesting is most of my coaching people who have been with me for a long time, they are the ones that are running those bigger businesses with more employees, and they have bigger problems, but they know how to pull their P&L and use it as part of those tools. But I also have folks that are just starting out and they want to get better at it and they want to understand it. And this isn't about me talking, trying to get people for coaching or for bookkeeping and all that. That's not what this is about. What I'm trying to say is we all have the same mission. Whether we're small or whether we're big. We have the same tool that's available to us, whether we're small or we're big or we're really big. The difference is it's people that want to learn and use the knowledge. Because there are people, like I said, the long-term ones, it's because they've really dug in deep and they're in it to win it. They've been in business for many years and they understand now I can put my P&L to work with all the other stuff that I'm doing. Folks that kind of come and go, you know what the biggest thing is with them is that it becomes too hard. And I don't necessarily mean the business becomes too hard. It becomes too hard to learn the P&L and adapt it to the business because it's like a broken record. People think that, once I learn this, no, every month tells you a different story. Every month gives you different information that you can compare to last month, last year, the future, what's going on. Your P&L, it may seem like it's the same stuff, but you got to really use it to make a difference. And sometimes people want to fight it. They're like, okay, but I'm not seeing the change. And I'm like, well, you're not seeing the change because you're not using the information that's trying to tell you what you should be doing. And can you run a business without it? Sure. Can you be in business for 10, 12 years without ever touching your P&L? I don't think so, only because from a tax standpoint, that means there's something else going on. But could you be way more successful? Absolutely. Could you survive without it? Yeah. Could you make a hell of a lot more money if you used your P&L? Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, I just wanted to go over all this stuff. I know I'm at that point where I'm starting to rattle because I got so many different thoughts in my head because I feel like I want to talk to each and every one of you and go over your situation and what's going on and stuff like that. And I just can't do that. So what I try to do is I try to come on here every single week and go over the most common things that will help you run a better business. And if you pick up nothing else from this video or from this podcast, do me a favor, and that is please prioritize the profit and loss statement in your business, whether it's only got 5 lines on it or if it's got 50 lines on it. But prioritize the fact that you're going to learn and understand your profit and loss statement and how it can help you run a better business, whether you want to stay solo or you want to grow it to multiple people. Your P&L is the key to those profits. I promise you. Okay. And there's a lot more business numbers behind that, but that is the number one thing that if I could get anything across to you, that's what it is. I just wanted to share a little bit about my background and how I got here. Hopefully for some of you that were wondering, that's kind of it. It's just, I had it handed to me and I got pounded on it for over 25 years of do this, do this, do this. This is it. Why is this? What's happening? This and that. And you know what? You get really good at it when you've got some accountability and people are on your butt about it. Whether it's the P&L or the inventory and the gross margin, all that stuff. It was a fun ride, and I do not regret any of it because it made me really understand a P&L and other business numbers really well. So it was fun. All right. With that, I'm going to get out of here, and we will talk again next week where we'll go over some more stuff that's going to help you become more profitable. Bye for now.